I want to go through with you some of these methods that cults use to try to exercise control over their congregations. And this is from freedomofmind.com, and he is an expert on cults, and he lists some of the things that some of these methods that cults use to control their congregation. He says here, when a cult tells members that they can't associate with former members, even with their best friends or members of their own families, it is using both behavior control and information control. Interesting how I've talked to people of the Church of God, and sometimes people of one Church of God are in a feast site and they see members of other churches of God in the same feast site, and the ministers tell their congregations not to associate with these people. And they could even be family members. They shouldn't associate with these people. Why? Well, control. Behavior and information control. He says here, looking at a group's attitude towards information is the fastest way to evaluate whether it is using destructive mind control. A legitimate organization will allow people the freedom to think for themselves, read whatever they like, and talk to whomever they choose in order to arrive at their own decision, whereas a destructive mind control group will want to do the thinking for the people. Now, the Apostle Paul says in Romans the 14th chapter, verse 5, let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. To come to your own conclusion and decision, and God even tells us to prove all things and hold fast that which is good. 1 Thessalonians the 5th chapter, verse 21. God challenges us to read, to study, and to prove things to yourself, and you'll come to the very conclusion that the Bible is the very Word of God, that God exists, that Jesus Christ is the Messiah, and you will end up obeying God because you are fully persuaded in your own mind. But that's not happening in the Church of God. They do the thinking for the people, when people should read whatever they want and arrive at their own conclusions. Make their own decision. Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind, the Apostle Paul says. In a mind control cult, the group's doctrines is seen as absolute truth and the only answer to people's problems. Cult doctrine teaches its members to think, we are the way, we are the truth, you are not in the group, those that are not in the group are lost, we know and you don't know. And of course, a lot of these splinter groups preach that they are the only true church, that salvation is only through membership of their church. And that's just simply not the case. God has the truth, and he can reveal it to anybody he wants to, and he doesn't need Gerald Flurry or David C. Pack's permission to call people in the world and bring them into his church. Jesus Christ says, I am the vine, you are the branch, as plural. There are branches of the Church of God scattered all over the world, and many times we don't even know who these people are, but they are part of God's church. It's God who decides who's in his church, not man. And so we see thought control in the Church of God. And then it says that these people say, there's no room. They don't give you any way to come to a conclusion to say maybe the leader is wrong. They don't give you that room to say, well, maybe this leader is wrong, or maybe this leader is misquoting the Bible. A lot of cults do this. They think that the leader is never wrong. He never misquotes the Bible or whatever book that he's quoting from. And what we have done, we've taken what some of the doctrines of David C. Pack and Gerald Flurry, we put them to the test, and we found that what they said was false. But they don't let their followers in their congregation make those same, they don't let them use critical thinking and come to their own conclusions, do they? All right, emotional control. It says here, fear, lots and lots of fear. Cults instill fear to bind members to the group to such an extent that members may become paranoid or phobic. Now, we've shown in other broadcasts that a lot of these ministers use fear and intimidation to have control over their memberships, and this is happening in the Church of God. And Jesus Christ said to fear no man. And we did a booklet, Should Christians Live in Fear? If you want to download that off our website, britishisrael.ca. And you can also see the broadcast on that subject as well. So they use fear and intimidation. Now also, all these methods that they use, the overall impact is to destroy one's own free will and the ability to think independently. That's the whole reason why people use all these methods, to destroy your own personal sovereignty and that they do the thinking for you. That's what they want. Then it concludes, it says, thought stopping is used by the cult, the identity, used by the cult identity to block out any idea, statement, or piece of information that challenges the group's doctrine or leadership. Now that I find interesting because somebody informed me that the Living Church of God had a ministerial conference, and they told, the head guys there told the ministers to go back to their congregations and tell them not to go on the website called the British Israel Church of God, and not to listen to the broadcasts, not to read the booklets, and to not go to our website whatsoever. Thought stopping, he calls it here, and that's exactly what's happening in the Church of God today. And all we're trying to do is help people and to make them realize that what's happening in the Church of God is cultic and not Christian. And they're telling people not to come to our site.